Hi everyone in the world of cloud computing, and welcome to episode 4 in this week's Cloud Computing Australia show with Brad Nelson and the world's #1 cloud industry expert and thought leader, David Linthicum. This show is sponsored by Nelson Hilliard, cloud computing recruitment specialist, placing great people in cloud, IoT, fintech and AI. And in this week's show, David and I will be discussing the concerns that have been raised over the South Australian bill that would allow companies to be granted exceptions from the state's laws when conducting research and development projects. Hi Dave, great to see you again and thanks for your time today. How's your week been?
Weekend's been great, and I love to hear stories about Australians thwarting the law.
Yeah, I know it's a good one this week, isn't it? So, in your opinion, Dave, is the ability to avoid complying to the law a good idea for Australia's R&D industry? And what impact do you think it will have?
I think over here in the States, we've been the laws a lot of times for new innovation and new technology. Certainly, when the internet came around, the taxes were deferred on internet-based sales, and so they could have time to build an industry that just wasn't there. And of course, now it's huge, and those have been removed. So Australia, South Australia in this case, is just looking out for themselves. So in other words, if we're able to create an innovative R&D atmosphere and we're able to attract talent, we're able to build things that are innovative and start businesses that are going to be huge in Australia, which are happening already, then that goes directly into the taxpayer coffers because if they get built big and they make money, no matter how they did it, they're going to end up hiring more people. There's more taxes to be paid, and we're going to be all more profitable, as a country as well as an industry. So I think that it's important, and I wish kind of they did this more in the United States, that they look for areas of innovation that are starting to grow and make sure that government gets out of the way, at least why it's being built. Now, later on, they can get in the way and start taking more resources out of it. But this is exactly what South Australia should be doing. This is exactly what government should be doing in terms of dealing with R&D and innovation around that stuff. I wish it was more international. I wish it was more here in the States.
Yeah, I think it's raised a few parties' backs up, as I know the Greens department said that the bill could potentially override almost every law of the state, and that they're finding it, it's simply outrageous that the R&D development side of things can do that.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where you have to accept it as an exception, and so if you want profitability in your country and in South Australia in this case, then you're going to have to basically make these kinds of consolations, and I think it's going to be tough because I think the counter argument, and if I'm going to make a counter argument, be with the law is the law, and everybody has to live under it, whether you're an R&D shop or you're running a farm or you're manufacturing something. And therefore, why should I give preference to this particular industry, this particular area of going forward? And I can understand that argument. The argument that I would make would be that this industry is not 100 years old. This industry is, 100, maybe 100 days old or 100 weeks old in many instances. And you're going to have to allow it to grow. And the thing is, if you stifle it with regulations and stifle it with additional taxes, or the same taxes others are paying, it probably won't be able to make it as far as it is. And you have to consider that when organizations like that are growing in Australia, they're competing in an international market. It's not just within Australia. They're competing with the U.S. companies, the European companies, the Asia Pac companies, all those sorts of things, and they got to remain competitive in terms of how they are regulated and how they pay taxes. If you look at United States, we're now thinking about throwing back some of the business taxes, and because they're the highest in the world besides Japan. And the reason we're doing that is basically to provide equilibrium in the international market, which we have to compete in. And Australia is no different.
Yeah, I think you've got a good point. There is a big international forum out there of business that everyone has to keep up with, and the way technology is moving and developing at such a rate and integrating in such a personal aspect of the life, it's encroaching on everything. And I think there almost has to be a bend of exception to the rule of what laws have already been put down, No laws can really stay the same when you're moving to such an advanced, interwoven technological life, as it were. And it's a really interesting point. And it's great, actually. I mean, maybe we should throw this out there on this show, Dave, to the LinkedIn connected people and the Twitterers and out to the Twitter sphere and Facebookers and the social world, Dave. Maybe we should put this question out there: how they feel about these laws changing for research and development for the benefit of the technology that they're using, right?
Yeah, I think we should. And the other thing is, remember that we're not breaking laws, we're modifying laws, and so it's a little different.
Yeah, and I think you're right. The laws aren't being broken, but they do have to be modified to a certain degree without people feeling that their own personal accountability is violated by such laws that can be, compromised and taken advantage of. But I think it'd be really interesting to see some feedback, and I think this would be a great opportunity to get it out there, as I say, through social media, for people to join this as a discussion, because it is a discussion, and it is happening in real time as we're discussing it now, really. So that's the great thing about these shows. They're almost semi-real time, and the discussions are very valid.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more from the people of South Australia as to how they feel about this, because it's interesting in terms of it as a microcosm, and really kind of as a referendum for how we deal with technology businesses all throughout the world. All technology is going to face this kind of issue in all countries out there in the next 10 years. And so because it's becoming more international, everything's linked. The internet has kind of leveled the playing field in terms of how we can get access to technology, things like that. So what are you guys going to do to remain competitive? And that has to be asked in each of the markets that we're in. And U.S., Australia, Europe, Japan, Asia Pac, all the same.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks, Dave. Thanks for an interesting show this week, and we're going to get it out there and start that dialogue with everyone else. I think that'd be really cool.
Good. I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, again, thanks again for being on the show this week, Dave. It's awesome to have you.
It's awesome to be here, Brad. Thank you.
You're a good man. You're a good man. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and I really did hope you enjoyed the show this week. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and please join the conversation with what Dave and I are talking about with regards to this these bending of the laws, or changing of the laws, as it were. And remember, if you do subscribe and like, you can catch up on all the shows that we do each week, and we've already done in the previous weeks, and including the weekly cloud computing news, which I do every week. David is David is on Linthicum, and what I meant to say was David is on Twitter under @DavidLinthicum, and you can also contact myself on Twitter, Nelson_Hilliard. So thanks again for watching, everyone.